music set in motion, bouncing upon the sea.
Welcome to another episode of Words and Music with yours truly, Parlor Jones, and my guest today, Timothy Cromer. Right there.
Glad to be here, Paula. Good to see you again.
Thank you for being on the show. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking. I look forward to the 15th anniversary jam Sunday, too.
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying that, and this was probably the trickiest one to achieve. And I won't go into the logistics of why, but every one of them has just been easy to plan and execute. But this one, I guess maybe because it's the 15th, right? It's got to be a milestone in more ways than one. Not only just the 250th anniversary of the United States. Let's not forget that.
Amen.
And special thanks to Jolly Gator Fish Camp for hosting this for 15 years.
I'll tell you, running into you guys and making your acquaintance and being able to attend those jams when I'm able, has really been a great vitamin B12 shot and, getting to get out, meet new players and play some great music with some great people out there.
It is
fun.
It is always fun. And it still amazes me that how many amazingly talented people come out to there. And I know the success reason why it's been so successful is not because of what I do, but I would say it's mostly because it's a venue where people can come out without being obligated to having a band. They don't have to be obligated to bring all their band's equipment.
Right,
the back line is provided. And it's someone like you, where Steve, our resident drummer, Steve is really, really good about letting people bang on the bongos, and sometimes that is the feeling I could see on his face. Like,
Yeah.
But
Steve and I've had talks about some of the sit-in guests.
Yeah, but with the back line provided. And people like you and so many seasoned musicians that can just adapt to any combination. It's maybe not always an ideal combination situation, but it still gives everybody a chance to, get the yayas out, so to say. And sometimes people have said to me, why do you let so-and-so play? Because they're not the caliber of some of the other. And in what avenue of life is everybody the same caliber, whether it's a carpenter or an AC man, or there's always somebody that's better than somebody else, and if you don't let that person get the experience, they're never going to be better. So that's always been my thinking behind the whole thing, is let people get some stage time. And I can personally attest to the fact in 15 years, which is a good tracking period, I could see people that have definitely gotten way better. Grown in more ways than one.
That's reminiscent of like the jazz cutting jam sessions that I used to read about in Downbeat, where Charlie Parker, for example, when he sat in with his not too friendly saxophone interpretations, one of the drummers takes a cymbal off and throws it at his feet.
Really?
Yeah, that's a true story.
Wow.
And it humbled him. It was meant as an insult, like, man, get off the stage, that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's great to let the people get their experience and get over their stage fright in an informal, great setting like the Gator with you guys.
Yeah. It's been eye-opening to hear other musicians, because I guess when we're in bands, that's the one thing about being in a band, whether it's a year or in our case, it is the same core members for 15 years. But when you're in a band that you have been in for a while, that is the band and the musicianship that you're always hearing. In this situation, which makes any jam, an open jam, like that kind of success, it's always new sounds. And even the patrons will say, wow, you guys, no matter who's up there, you sound phenomenal. And they'll say, do you get together and rehearse? No. Maybe sometimes it shows.
Spontaneity and that coalition of players when it starts chugging along and getting right and getting fun.
Right.
That's a great thing.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So I know you asked me what kind of direction do we want to take this, and I said it's going to just be fun, casual,
Yeah.
free flowing. If there's any area that you would like to, let our viewers know your background, how you got to where you are.
Well, I've been giving it some thought since you invited me to come over, and I'll be 74 in September, so I've been reflecting a lot anyway about life in general. But when you invited me to the podcast, I started thinking, well, let's remember this thing here, and like you, when we were trading texts the other day, up until that weekend, I was John Wayne, Cowboys and Indians, and Army movies, and playing with the toys. I'd just gotten 2 months before Christmas, and then the Beatles come on that Sunday night, February '64. I was 12 years old, and like that old rhythm and blues song, "Cowboys to Girls," talking about where they transitioned from youth into relationship. That happened to me with music, like my holsters and guns and army helmet never got touched again. And my dad took me uptown to Manny's and bought me a red sparkle Ludwig snare drum, and my granddad bought me a cymbal on a stand, so that's what I had. And at that time, I'd been taking piano lessons. I was 12 years old, and I wasn't digging it. And my teacher, Mrs. Purvis, it was good. I was getting the metronome experience. It was served me and still serves me. And reading the mathematics of music notation was a benefit, such as I was absorbing it. But one Saturday, I come over for my private lesson. She did a class midweek, like 6 people. Come over for my Saturday lesson, and I walk into her studio, and there's a big walnut marching bass drum. And her husband had been in the army, and they'd been cleaning out their attic. So he had brought that down, and that's as far as it got. And I walked in there, and to her credit, she saw it was like when the Nazis walk up on the Ark of the Covenant in Tomb Ark of the Raiders movie, it's like, wow. And she saw that, and it was cool things she did. She said, "Here, Timothy, I know what." She hands me the felt mallet, and she says, "I don't know. We've been learning the 4 branch of service songs. The caissons go marching along.
Yeah.
The Marine Corps song, Anchors Away, Up in the Wild Blue. So that's what I was doing Mozart yet by mistake. So that day she said, "I know what, honey. Why don't you play? I'm going to play the hymns, and you keep time for me." And boy, that half an hour went by like that. It's like, bam, 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 So that was it.
Yeah.
And that coupled with seeing the Beatles launched me towards music and drums. And back in Columbia, South Carolina, born there in 1952, like in the area, they had some great musicians, jazz musicians, university town, capital of South Carolina. So they had some great players. I was blessed to have some good teachers, and by and by, got in with some guys playing cover band music back when Grand Funk was first coming out, Mountain, Ozzy and Black, all that stuff, Deep Purple, and Zeppelin, of course. So we were doing that thing, and then one of my teachers, my next teacher, introduced me to deep R&B, soul music, and jazz. So this drum instructor launched me because of the book he was working me out of into the jazz drummers and also the R&B drummers, not just James Brown, but the Clyde Stubblefield from James Brown, all those guys. So that really, like I said, my obsessive compulsive disorder. I didn't jettison rock and that other stuff, but I still loved it. I love it to this day, but I saw that stuff real hard. And then fast forward to keyboard player back in South Carolina. "Hey, Timmy, you might be getting a call from a band down in Clearwater, Florida." "Why?" "Well, I referred, they're looking for a drummer. They're a show band. They're 6 nights a week, And I was working in a record shop up there and at the time, and Well, by they called, and I was 18, and so I took the call, and we did the 6 night a week thing for 5 years with that band.
Wow.
And, yeah, and you know, once you heard Al talk a little bit about it, and Jeff Joey D and I have had this conversation before because we're both from that ilk, at the halcyon days of the club circuit, you know, and you know, yeah, you're in Atlanta for 3 weeks, and I got you down in Shreveport, you know, that sort of thing, hopping around the southeast and the Chitlin circuit.
Right.
And I count that as absolute invaluable experience that I cherish. You know, we ran into some of the greatest players and people out there, other bands. In fact, I was thinking on the drive over here that back in 1976, as this weekend approaches, 4th of July, when we were celebrating our 1976 celebration, our band was in Atlanta. No, I'm sorry, in New Orleans. It was actually across Lake Pontchartrain in Metairie, Louisiana, which is where they make crystal hot sauce. And its nickname is Fat City, Louisiana, because it's like a 10 block square area of just clubs and restaurants. That's where we were playing. And in the club across the street from us was Tiny Tim, who had just played Johnny Carson.
Wow.
And we would run over on our breaks and see his big, tall, ugly behind and his ukulele. It was cool. He's a very nice cat, you know.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, 1976, that was going on that many years ago. I was thinking about that on the drive over here. Ben, I get tired of the 6 night a week thing. I get a job by the grace of God at I started doing stagehand audio production. I ended up getting a job at the Orange County Convention Center on International Drive right before it opened in '84.
Oh, nice.
In their technical services department. And I ended up being there 25 years until retiring in 2009. Great gig. Yeah, and lots of great people. Hosted lots of great concerts before the Magic Arena was built downtown. We were in fact, one of the audio tech from Motley Crue called us the home of the standing wave, because you know we were a big exhibit hall. Boom, 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 boom.
Right.
But at any rate, so I worked there for 25 years. Retired in 2009. We moved back to where my wife is from, a great musical family also, in Miami, and I'm retired. So I got to play with like 5 different bands down there, cover band, two all original bands, and a country western rock band called Cowboy Up, and I had a blast with all of them.
What years?
My butt off.
What years were you in Miami?
2009 until we moved back up here in 2016, 17. You were down in that neck of the woods for a while.
Yeah,
right?
I was in Miami from '66 to '95.
Wow.
Yeah, that's hard to believe when I say this.
Well, see now, Robin's my sweet, loving, talented wife, Robin Whitney. Both her mom, Frances Matterford Whitney, and her grandmom, Lena Matterford, were both professors of the operatic discipline at U of M under Dean William Lee, who was Will Lee's father, you know, from Letterman fame, and
Mm-hmm.
he's a fantastic player. In fact, he responded to, I posted a picture once of Robin and her family and Lena Matterford from a university event back in the 60s and 70s. That was when they were there.
Yeah.
And Will Lee commented, "Wow, man, Matterford, she was my vocal coach." I'm like, "Ooh, Will Lee."
That's
I
cool.
did it on a post of mine. But at any rate, so we went back down there, had a great time till we moved back up here in 2016, 2017. And I haven't had played with anyone in any capacity other than jam sessions, you know. Orlando musicians that I played with that I really appreciate and give a shout out to is Dr. Otto Gomez, great trumpet player here locally. Played with him for a while. David Katz, sax player. Maurice Johnson, guitar player, and my buddy Walter Skip Bryant on bass. That was a really fun band up here.
Yeah.
So
So was there any period of time, like a lot of musicians, where they didn't touch their instrument for a while?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I went through that. I was like, screw it, I'm done with this stuff. I'm done lugging around 200 pounds of equipment and investing the hours with people who don't always do their homework and lugging that, the whole thing. So yeah, I became very disenchanted with it and not angry with it, but disenchanted. Like, I'm taking a break from this crap.
So how long a period of time was that break?
It's like 3 years, three and a half
Oh, wow.
years.
Well, that's a long time when you're giving up something that you love. I mean, I've met one other person that has a similar story to me. I put my guitars, and I only had two, I think, maybe three at that time, and I put them under the bed. And I can't believe when I say this, I didn't touch those guitars for 16 years.
For
16
real?
years.
You did no articulation on any.
No, no.
Wow.
No, I don't know exactly. I have my own thoughts, maybe why, but I know that what got me back into it was in 2004. I went to go visit a friend in Maryland, and he said, "Hey, how about we throw a jam together in my basement?" And it was a small little town. He said, "There's a couple of people in town. I can get them to come over." And I said, "Sure." So I was visiting him for a few days, and it was fun, just the one night. And then when I came back to Orlando, I went on to the meetup pages. I forget who was it, Craigslist? I think it was maybe Craigslist meetup. I don't know for sure, but I just typed in there, search for local blues jams in Orlando, and Steve G came up. Steve G.
Yeah.
So I went to one of his jams, and then I went to another one. Like a lot of people that come to my jam, I'll ask them, "You want to play today?" And they go, "No, I'm just going to listen." So I just went to listen for a few times and got comfortable enough to think, maybe having not played in 16 years, maybe I could go up and play something. And I think I was even jamming as a bass player on that, because that's what I started on. But yeah, so from 2004 to today, I have just played more in the last 15 years than I played my whole life prior to that. And I started the same year as you, 1963. 1963, I started playing bass. And a similar story, my grandmother was very supportive of my love for music and photography. So she got me a camera, which is funny to this day.
Yeah.
I made my career with photography and music. And she also, I think, bought me an upright piano when I was in fourth grade. And I went through the trying to learn the keys. So I have one behind me, and I could play it as good today as I did in 1964.
I think I could probably do that too.
But I try. I got it out now. I revamped the studio, so I actually think I could practice more often now. But yeah, funny. So music and photography, and here I am today doing music and photography. A lifetime.
Now, speaking of a lifetime ago, there was one thought I was having on the drive over. I was remembering there was before I moved away down to Florida, Columbia, South Carolina, like I said, capital city, university town, lots of hip clubs. We fell in with our band fell in with a club owner who, in addition to, I'm still in my last year of high school, we were one of 3 or 4 bands that he would rotate, good in the local bands. And he would also, when they were available, book acts of some note if they were touring through the Chitlin circuit. So while we were there at the Copper Door Lounge, we opened for, I was thinking about this, well, Parlor may not even remember a couple of these, but we opened for the Ides of March.
Oh, yeah.
And Your Vehicle, Baby. And I'll tell you, I watched a YouTube of the Ides of March recently. Jim, that guitarist, is still on tour and
Really?
still killing it. He
Wow.
still has that same energy.
Wow.
Another band, they were great people too. Another band we opened for there was Brownsville Station.
Yeah, I remember
With
that.
Cub Coda, he looked like Geddy Lee before Geddy Lee looked
Right.
like, with his black and white referee shirt.
Yeah.
Big, and then of note, before he shot back up as what he now is, we opened for the Amboy Dukes
Really?
with Ted Nugent.
Wow.
And I remember when we went out, their rider truck was backed up to the club, and he was being endorsed by Fender at the time, and they still had Fender Twins in the box,
Yeah.
in addition to the wall they brought in for him. And that's what I loved about him in the Amboy Dukes was that unique control of feedback he was able
Yeah.
to get with those big fat birdlands, because when he
Yeah.
walked into the club while we were doing our sound check or setting up, he walks in clutching 3 guitar cases like they were children, just right back there, And later when he signed my little autograph at the end of the night, he signed it Birdlands 1, 2, and 3.
Uh-huh.
And those were his, he had 3 cherished birdlands among others that he was using.
He is
So,
quite the character.
and who else? Oh, after Janis Joplin died, her big brother in the holding company toured for a while. We opened for them there. They were mediocre. But yeah, I was thinking about some of those acts and people we opened up for. Oh, Bob Seger's system before he exploded back, like a rock. But
Yeah.
his truck had that. It was a beautiful painting of his album where there's a angelic-looking girl standing at the edge of a glacier.
Yeah.
And that was from his album cover from that tour. So those kind of experiences kept me motivated. Wow, it just practicing. And one other memory was before I moved to Florida, I was asked a steel guitar player recommended me to some guys who actually lived in the Aiken, South Carolina, Augusta, Georgia area. Aiken's a very prominent horse town. Paul Newman and his Joanne had houses there. The DuPonts. It's very, it has this very noble section there. And these guys wanted me to play drums with them. Horn player, sax player, great keyboard player, Buddy Parker, David and Dwayne Kitchens, trumpet sax, and Kerry Marks. If you Google him, he's been the musical director at the Grand Ole Opry for like the last decade or two. He's toured with Jerry Reed, Lonnie Millsap. He's a mover and a shaker.
Yeah.
He left our band. Good choice too, Jerry. No, I'm not gonna. I'm going to go to North Texas State, I've decided. So he left the band. We got another guitar player, and he went to North Texas State and got busy. So at any rate, my point is, one night at rehearsal, the door opens and we're in the middle of the song, and these 2 guys walk in. And they stand there listening for a while, Kerry and the guys wave at him. I was new to the band. I had no idea who they were. And so after they listened for a little bit, and then they turn and walk out and leave. And as soon as the door closed, Kerry Marks, the guitar player, goes, and does like the small sweat off his brow. I'm like, what? Who are those guys? Well, we're going to take you to see them. They're going to be at the Whipping Post in Augusta on the Whipping Post Club on Broadway. Well, it was not yet famous, not yet left for his first semester of Miami School of Music yet, Steve Morris and his longtime bassist Andy West.
Uh-huh.
And they lived in that area. And we went over and saw their band that weekend. They had a female violinist that time and their drummer, great. But when Steve went down to the U of M and met up with Rod Morgenstein, his future drummer, T. Lavitz, the keyboard player, and Alan Sloan, the violinist, that was like, we went back, when he came back on spring break with his new band, and our jaws was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then next thing we know, they got a contract with Capricorn Records, man, and they did all those albums. And, Steve Morris went on the tour with Deep Purple, he does occasionally, and they still do tours as the Dregs. So meeting all those people really kept me inspired to keep practicing. I've always been a practice freak. So.
That's cool. Well, then, based on what you just said there, I think I already know the answer to my next question, and that is, do you find yourself liking one more than the other, the studio environment or the live performance environment?
Well, I really like both.
I knew you were going to say
I
that.
really do. I like, obviously, the live environment. I recorded 2 Christian CDs. If you Google Tim Kelly, he's a renowned photographer.
Yeah.
Marco Mira, Tiger Woods, and prominent people. He does portrait arts, but he's also an incredibly tasty guitar player, and he has his studio, Upper Room Music. So I recorded first Rick Morris's CD Purpose, great arrangements, horn, vocals, people from Disney that they know, and it was done on an electronic set. We bounced between 3 or 4 sets for the duration of the CD, and I loved the ease of that business. Now that one time's still sucking, you need to
Right.
chin it.
Yeah.
So that was great. So I loved that environment. I really did, and being able to then go in the control room and listen back. Or I see what I need to not do on the next take.
It's a learning tool. It's
And,
definitely.
and then I recorded one of the CD there in the studio environment with them with Jeff Stopford called Leaving Familiar. And I'm still grateful for those opportunities, but I love the live environment.
Yeah.
And those 2 CDs were recorded on Tim's at the time state of the art Roland. I think they were TD 120s or something. It was the hot stuff at the time,
Yeah.
and that was cool. But I like the combustion between two heads and the resounding brass that you can
Right.
whisper or roar.
Yeah.
That sometimes electronic drums choke up on.
Especially on cymbals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't really ride an electronic cymbal. I mean, not a.
Can't get nuance.
Yeah. Right.
Can't get, and the hi hat, which is so important to me in folk or R&B drumming, is hard to pull things like
Right.
that out.
Yeah.
All those things. Like my one black drum my one drum instructor who was a aged black man back home used to tell me, "No, make it spit, make it spit." What are you talking about? He goes, like that, make it spit, like you're spitting on a pot-bellied stove. I'm going, oh, okay, like James Brown's drummers do. Okay,
That's
I'll
funny.
never forget that.
That is funny.
But I sometimes have a hard time pulling those nuances out of electronic.
Yeah. So, in any final topics before we go to that?
Well, I did want to bring up. I was very fortunate when I was like 16 years old. There was an old blues guy. I encourage you to Google or YouTube Drink Small. That is his legal name, and he's a black gentleman from Bishopville, South Carolina. And he was 40 something when a friend of mine said, "Hey, Timmy, Drink's looking for a drummer, and he's being promoted by this guy out of Chicago." And the guy's name was Jeff Schaefer, and he had like shirts made up. He booked us in Atlanta at the Great Southeast Music Hall, a great venue down there. Paid for us to record an album there back in South Carolina. And so I toured with him for about a year and a half, such as it was. He was deathly afraid of airplanes. And the Chicago promoter used to get after him all the time. "Drink, I can book you in blues festivals all over the place. They want you in Europe." "No, man, if I can't get there from a Greyhound, I ain't going." And that's his quote. And he could have been a lot more, he'd say that every time.
Yeah.
"If I can't get there on a Greyhound." So, anyway, I wanted to bring him up. That and later, Dr. Gail Wilson, who's a doctor up in South Carolina. We're in Miami, and I get this call, and she introduces herself. She's writing a book. She had written one on local folklore, South Carolina culture. She's writing a book on Drink Small. And so she interviewed me for about an hour. Asked me, "Do you mind? I want to hear." And there were times when I got kind of emotional, like when I heard that he had gone blind and stuff, and getting on in his years. But so I'm in that book, and that experience with him. There were his nickname for the bass player was, "Oh, you mean old Vodka Mike?" Because he was a vodka Mike. Well, we were the only two white basses in the band for a while, and then local South Carolina keyboard player, great Hammond B3 player Cleve Edwards, recently passed away. He came in the band, but there were times when we were the only two white faces. And some of the places we played in between the gigs, Jeff was getting the good gigs. We were down and out for real juke joints, real juke joints, and we were always made to feel so welcome. And it was an extremely cool experience back then. because we were just fresh out of civil rights and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah. It was a
Because I'm old enough to remember, colored balcony, white
Yeah,
balcony,
yeah.
white water fountains,
We're the same age. You're a year older than me, so we remember the same things.
So back to that, it's in 1963, and didn't you say that's the exact year you had your musical
Isn't that
experience?
funny?
Oh,
I just started thinking about that the other day. I was thinking the cosmos, I'll just say the universe, is weird when you think about things that unfold. Like 1963, I started playing. Funny story. 1963, I started playing bass guitar when the Beatles came out. Saw them on Ed Sullivan, and I just had the hook in me right away. But I never knew in 1963, not only would I still be playing guitar and recording and doing this stuff today, but that I would be living in a house that was built in 1963, and part of the house ends up as a guitar. And here's the other odd thing. When I was growing up in Long Island, that's where I was growing up, I used to watch a show called Sky King. And it was this, I forget what, he flew a Beechcraft, one of those split-tail Beechcrafts with his daughter Penny. It was Sky King and his daughter Penny. And it was a weekly or daily show like kids would watch. And that was in like 1963 also. And it wasn't until I bought this house in 2000 that I found out that Sky King used to come to this property and have Friday night fish fries with the people. I mean,
I remember Sky King big time.
How weird is that? I mean, like,
talk about serendipity.
Sky King was in the same property in 1963.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
It's weird. It's just absolutely weird.
Well, now, this may not make it to the podcast, but ever since you had me over here, and we caught up with our backgrounds, like South Miami at the same time. When you mentioned Long Island just now, I was reminded that was one of the topics I wanted to tell you. During my gig, I wanted to ask you about this. During my gig at the Arts County Convention Center, for those 25 years, we hosted twice a show called the Preparedness Show. These are the people that build bomb shelters and stock food. There's probably a hell of a lot more of them now. This was back in late 80s, early 90s. And I get this call, Tim Cromer, Tech Services. Go ahead. Yeah, they say you can't really hear the podium mic in room 6, meeting room 6, They'll go in there, go back there. We have the old Altet wall-mounted, you take a key and hang it down. There's 4 rotary,
Right.
mic line. And so I get it adjusted. And he wasn't up on the mic, his mini speak, a lot of this. So I get it adjusted, but it's his content that he was saying. And his name, if you Google him, is Dr. Preston Nichols. And if you Google Dr. Preston Nichols, you will see that he wrote a book. I haven't read it, but it's been decades ago. But it's about the Montauk, Long Island project.
Ah.
So I'm about to leave the room, and he's going. I'm listening to what he's saying just enough to make sure, bass and treble. But then I'm hearing what he's saying. He's going, in the Montauk, we work with Alien Presence at the Montauk, Long Island facility, a series of tunnels and underground this and that. And I'm like, I took a seat in the back of in the room and just listened. And I later, this was before internet, later found his book, The Montauk, Long Island Project. And now if you go on Google and Preston Nichols and that, all this.
Well, give us 14 seconds. You're never going to see a set design as fast as this. A set design change, 14 seconds or less, you will see Timothy at the drums, and I will have stud around my neck. All right.
Stand by, set change, camera move, and 5, 4.
To the river, jump in, showed up and said,
Well, thank you very much for tuning in to Words of Music with Parlor Jones and my guest Timothy Cromer on this fabulous Thursday. Yeah, it's Thursday. Wow. Yeah, and glad you tuned in. And I have no idea who the next guest will be, but we're watching and hope you stay tuned in and hope you enjoyed what we talked about.
Yeah, I want to thank you for starting this. It's a great service to the local musicianship,
Thank you.
and it's a good thing.
Thank you.
I failed to mention that I teach right down the road from you, not a mile away at Underwood School of Music. I have a couple of students where a couple of shiners, really. So Landon and Luke, I'm proud of those guys, 9-year-old and 17-year-old.
Cool.
Yeah, so, yeah.